My name's Nicole, and I've been an early intervention specialist at the Children's Therapy Center for 10 years. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about behavior management. And I'm talking more about your typical behavior management, the kinds of things that every parent is running into day to day. And it's just an opportunity to think about what is causing my child to do these things and how can I make a change to help them understand next time what behavior I'm expecting. So one of those things to start with is, what are your expectations? Because your expectations also need to be managed. Do you know what a 2-year-old should be able to do? Do you know what a 5-year-old should be able to do? When you're asking your child to perform an instruction and you say, go get your shoes, in your mind, that's one instruction. I'm giving my child one thing I want them to do. But for a 2-year-old, that's a lot of instructions. That's, I need to go find my shoes, I need to bring my shoes back here, and I need to put my shoes on. And that's getting your shoes on. So that's a lot of different instructions the child has to come up with on their own that you're not helping them think through. And that is a skill we want your child to have and develop. It just may not be one they have ready yet. And so you have to manage your own expectation that they may need a little bit of help getting through each of those steps. So in addition to whether or not your instructions are simple enough, you need to consider how much nonverbal communication is part of that interaction. So maybe when you're offering your child something to eat, you hand it to them when they've decided what they want. But with another adult in your household, you may ask, hey, did you want a soda? And when they say yes, you just kind of toss it to them. Or maybe you do that with, do you have my phone? Or the remote? Or your keys? Now your child's seeing you and someone else throw things inside. That's a rule you have, don't throw things inside. But you just broke it and your child doesn't know why. So they're going to have to explore why. They're going to try throwing things sometimes and you're going to say that's not something you can throw. And then other times you might kind of let that one go. But instead of letting it go, explain to them why. Tell them why it is okay that they just threw it just now. Or if you notice yourself doing it, label it for them. I just threw that to Daddy, but we didn't not talk about it. We talked about it with our eyes. I asked Daddy if he wanted it. He said yes. And then I looked at him. And when he looked back at me, I threw it to him. That's how we communicated that. And that's the kind of communication you're asking from your child as well. It's also helpful to tell them what you want them to do and not what you don't want them to do. It's very common for us and other parents to say things like, don't hit or don't squeeze it. But instead what you want to tell them is what you want them to do. Keep your hands to yourself. Be gentle. Those are the things that you want your child's brain to trigger and them do immediately, as opposed to don't hit. What if the only word your kid really picks up on is hit? And now they have impulse control issues on top of that because they're toddlers. That's really tricky. So it's really helpful if you just tell them what you do want. You are going to find how often you are saying what you don't want, and it happens all the time, and you definitely have to retrain yourself to give the words that you do want, but it's so helpful when you do. For some parents, they get upset that their child doesn't respond to them when they want them to. And that's fair. I think it's frustrating for all of us when someone doesn't respond when we want them to. But again, you have to manage your expectation of what your child's going to do when you're looking for their attention. So if they're really busy doing something and they're focused and you say their name, they're probably not going to respond. But neither do your friends, and neither do the other adults you know. If they're focused on returning an email on their work phone, they don't hear you say their name. Even if they respond to you, they may not really be connecting to your communication method. That happens with little kids too. So you just have to keep in mind, when I just said their name, were they even in a space to hear that I was saying their name? Did I get their attention another way to make sure that they could hear me and that they recognize that they aren't ignoring me? They're just not letting that information in right now. So one of the ways to kind of go around that is to make sure you get in your kids' visual space. So I'm not going to say it from across the room behind them. I'm going to go up to them and get in their visual space to say, hey, Tommy, I'm going to need you to stop with the iPad soon. That's the kind of information you need to give, because if I just say that from across the room, I don't know that he heard me. And then it's not fair 10 minutes from now when I tell him to stop that he didn't hear it. You want to make sure that you're being honest with them when you are separating with them. So it can be really easy to say, I'm just going to be gone for a minute, because that gets you out the door. But then whoever's left with your kid 5 minutes from now when you don't get back has to deal with that. But then it becomes your problem again the next time you try to leave and you say, I'm going to be gone a minute, and you're not going to be gone a minute. Your child doesn't believe you if you are or not. They think that you're just going to go and they don't know when you're coming back. So be honest with them. If you're going on a business trip for 2 days, you might have to say that. But then that way, the next time you go to leave the house, your kid isn't afraid you're not going to come back for 2 days. Your kid knows my mom is going to come back in 5 minutes. She said she was checking the mail and would be back in 5 minutes. My mom said she was going to the grocery store and that it would be an hour or two. So I know that my mom will be back in an hour or two. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes you don't make it back when you said, or you can't make every statement to your child true. That's okay too, but explain that to them. And I understand that your child may be 2 and maybe they don't understand your explanation, but your consistency in your explanations is how your child learns what those things mean. So it's okay if the first few times you're explaining it to them, they're not getting it. They are going to get it eventually. Another thing to focus on with being honest with your child to help them with their expectations is things like, if a toy is broken, it's broken, and you can explain to them that it may be fixable or it may not be fixable. But if something's going to go away, be honest with them about how long it's going to go away and whether or not it can come back and whether there's anything you can do about it. And again, they'll start to understand these concepts that if I break this, it may not be fixable, but there are things that are fixable, but they're different. And you have to start recognizing which things can be fixed and which things can't, which things can be helped and which things can't. If you are taking something away as a discipline, you can't play with your stuffed puppy anymore because you were hitting your brother with your stuffed puppy. Be clear about how long that stuffed puppy is going to be gone. It's not going to be gone forever. Is it going to be gone until the next sleep? That's what I like to use, the next sleep, because the kids don't judge the time that well. And 2 days can be a really long time. If you're 3, that's a lot of sleeps. So I just say until your next sleep, and when you wake up, it will be back. But it might need to be gone longer, or it might be gone permanently. But you need to be honest about that so that your kid can start to understand that the words you're using are the words you mean. Also, to help your child manage their expectations, it's great to count down a task. And you can count down a positive task or a negative task, because if a kid is doing something they really like to do, you might have to count that down to get them to separate and transition to something else. So your kid really likes playing with the water balloons. Well, if it's going to be time to clean up the water balloons, then you're going to say, hey, you get 3 more water balloons until we go, and you're counting it down. If it's something your kid doesn't want to do, it's helpful to know that that's going to end. So let's say it's diaper changing. A lot of kids don't like those cold wipes on their bottoms. It's not fun. They don't want to get their diaper changed. You don't want to change their diaper. Nobody's into this plane. But it needs to happen. And so when you're doing it, maybe you're counting each step so that the child knows that this is going to end. So each time I wipe the child's bottom with the cold wipe, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. So they know that that specific action will end at 3. And then I might have to wipe again, but they know it's not just going on indefinitely. They know it comes to an end. For all of us, when we know something's going to end, it just makes it so much easier to deal with, right? If you are at the gym and you're in your workout class, they don't count up how many of the last set of reps you've done. They count down the last set of reps because you want to know how much longer till this is over. But you're subjecting yourself to it. Each time you go in there, you're making that choice, but still, you want to count it down. So it's okay that it's a task your child does or doesn't want to do. You may still need to count it down just so they have an expectation of how long it will last. I'd like to finish up by talking a little bit about managing the transitions. It's hard for all of us to go from something we want to do to something we don't want to do. But you actually set up a lot of times throughout your day where you're giving yourself an intrinsic reward. I mean, it's not exciting necessarily, but maybe you wait for your second glass of coffee till you finished the dishes, that kind of thing. Just a little thing that you do to play in your head that you get a little reward when you've done something you don't really want to do. So your child's intrinsic reward, it doesn't have to be a piece of candy or a new toy every time you did something they want. It may be that your child really likes to play T-Rex, but there's not great room to play T-Rex until they've cleaned up their Legos. So use that as the intrinsic reward. I would love to play T-Rex with you. I need you to clean up your Legos first. So giving them that idea of what the transition's going to be, and then again, making it true. If the next step to going to bed is brushing your teeth, don't leave that out of the sequence when you're telling your kid what we're going to be doing next. They need to know what all the steps are so you're not surprising them with something they didn't want to do, especially when they're super looking forward to the thing they did want to do. Nobody wants that. So I've just given you a couple things you can try at home. If those aren't working for you and you're feeling like you're being pretty consistent with these ideas and it's just not working, then you might need to talk to someone about what's going on with your child's social emotional development and maybe some other areas that may be being affected. If you have questions about your child's development, you can call Help Me Grow Yolo County at 844-410-4769, and we'll connect you with the resources and referrals that are appropriate for you and your family. Thank you.